Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Everyday Fan Podcast. We're on here just talking sports with, like the title says, everyday fans. Really enjoy doing these and looking forward to today's podcast. I have with me today one actually followers on TikTok, met him through TikTok and Facebook, Cole Bradshaw. So how you doing today, Cole?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I was going to have Cole on earlier, but it happened to be I had an issue one weekend, and then he was at opening day of the Braves, which I'm gonna ask you about that. That had to be great. But let's just start out with that. How'd you become a big Braves fan? I know you're just from looking at your Facebook stuff and everything, you're a big Braves fan.
Yeah, I started, I guess, when I was a kid. I mean, I feel like if you're from the South, you gotta be a Braves fan. And then my great grandma was a diehard Braves fan, so she kinda just passed it along to me, and I feel like from there, that's just kinda been all I've ever loved is the Braves.
All right. That's I hear that a lot, and same with me. It's kind of a family thing. Me, it was just baseball in general,
Yeah,
but when we moved to Atlanta area, then really started following the Braves and, became a big fan of theirs. So, I hear that a lot as far as a family thing. But so tell me so you've been following since you were younger. I know you're a lot younger than I am, but when was the kind of the first teams? Were you following them in the 90s when they were
no,
winning all the
no,
divisions?
unfortunately, I missed all that. I wanna say it was probably, like, mid-2000s.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a diehard Georgia fan as well. I feel like you said, going back to families, I don't feel like you ever had the option if you're living in the South to be anybody but a Braves fan. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
um, I would say probably like mid 2000s, 2004,
Okay.
2005. I just turned 29, so 97. So I feel like I was listening to him on the radio with my great grandma. Like, she's why I'm a fan. So
Gotcha.
I was listening to it probably early 2000s, but as far as like actually getting into it, watching the games every single day, I would probably say about '05.
Okay. Okay.
Or
All right.
unfortunately, I
Great.
did miss out on the '90s Braves. I mean, I've watched plenty of stuff, how great they
Sure.
were, but I never got to watch the I feel like I'm a big Chipper fan, but I feel like I wasn't, like, in the prime years of Chipper, so, like, I was kinda at the tail end of the career, but I was still able to see the
Right.
dominance of the mid-2000s and stuff like that.
Okay. I got you. So kind of when they called them the baby Braves came along, McCann and Francoeur and
Yep, see
that group.
Brian
Okay.
McCann was always, like, he's a popular player for, I guess, Braves country, but I don't feel like he gets the recognition across the board, but that was always, like, my guy. Brian McCann,
Okay.
Jeff Francoeur, those guys were always Rafael Furcal, Marcus Shaw's, those guys.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, McCann, I was kind of doing some research on some stuff I was working on and kind of just look back at McCann's career. And he was like an all-star like 7 times and Silver Slugger a bunch of times. He was had a lot better career than I think a lot of people realize.
For sure, and I think I wanna say it was 2010 maybe, he was an All-Star, and I wanna say he won the All-Star MVP for hitting the game-winning hit,
Yeah, I think you're right.
and I
I
think
think you're right.
that's like I said, stuff like that to me, that gets overshadowed, Like I said, Braves fans know who he is, but I don't think he ever got the recognition, so, from my early, like, days of watching the Braves, it was definitely McCann, and then, like, I feel like what Chipper Jones was to the '90s Braves is kinda what Freddie Freeman was for me. I
Yes.
watched him from the beginning, and then we went through that 3 or 4-year rebuilding stretch where he stayed there, and he was kinda the only player to really watch. So, I mean, that's kinda, I guess, where my that's kinda where I started watching the Rays. That was where it was from.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I still like Freddie, I'm glad he's doing good with the Dodgers, don't like the Dodgers, but,
No, no.
uh, glad he's being successful anyway, and I've told this a couple times, but like I said, we're in Myrtle Beach now, we visited here for 30 years, and when the minor league team here, the Pelicans, first started, they were a Braves affiliate,
Okay.
so I actually saw Freddie and Jason Hayward play for the Myrtle
Wow.
Beach Pelicans.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. They weren't here long, they moved up quick, so
Yeah, that's definitely a memory to have, but you said you went to you Myr hold on, Myrtle Beach. I went to South Carolina last year with my girlfriend on a trip, and we were walking down to the beach and, like, all the rooms you could look up and people had their flags hanging over, and there was so many Braves flags there, and it's like, we're literally in South Carolina, but there's so many Braves fans, and I think that just shows just how big Braves country is.
yeah, it really is. When you, kinda when they were switching over to this Braves Vision thing and you
Yep.
see comments about, "Where can I watch it?" Where there's a lot of South Carolina people in there, trying to find them. Fortunately, we can watch them here in South Carolina, so that worked out really well.
And I tell people all the time, I'm
Um,
like, I feel like in the South, college footballs, I mean, it reigns supreme. Like, it's a big deal. Well, I tell people if you're in Georgia, you're a Bulldogs fan. If you're in Alabama, you're a Crimson Tide fan. If you're in Tennessee, you're a Volunteer fan. But when baseball season comes around, all those fan bases come together and they're all Braves fans. And I think that's really cool to see because I don't think you have that anywhere else.
that's really the truth. You're really right, and they haven't really moved any other, teams. Florida has some teams, but, you don't see any teams in the surrounding area, Alabama, Tennessee, like you said, North Carolina, South
Yep.
Carolina. There's no other professional baseball teams
And
around here.
even I know the Marlins were good in the early 2000s, but even then, like when the Braves played, I think it was 2023 when the Braves played at Tampa Bay, and the Rays, I think, were pretty solid that year. But when we won one of those, I think we won the series, but like Murphy hit a grand slam, I think it was, and it really like watching it on TV, it felt like you were in Atlanta, like it was all Braves fans there. And I feel like anywhere, like you said, down south, where I mean, Braves country is really a big thing. I think anywhere in there, like I feel bad if I was a Rays player and I seen that, like that would be a little disheartening. But I feel like that's just how Braves country is. Like it controls the South.
It really does, and it's really widespread too, because even watching some of the games on the West Coast games this last trip, you look in the stands behind the, home plate and everything, and you'll see scattered in there people with Braves hats on, it's like, "Hey, great."
Well, one of the craziest ones I've ever seen was for some reason, and I think I've read comments where people were talking about like it was real big TBS, but like when they go play
Yes.
Colorado in the Rockies, like it's all Braves fans there, like the whole down the third base line's nothing but Braves fans. So we talked like you talked about in the South, like how many Braves fans there is down here, but for it to stretch out to Colorado, I mean that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really and I've got some family out there, and they're they of course, they like the Rockies first, but their second team's the Braves.
Right,
They love the
Braves,
Braves,
yeah.
so, uh, that's just how it's always been, and it does go back to, Ted Turner and TBS when, that was the baseball you could watch. You could watch the Cubs in the daytime and the Braves at nighttime because they were on cable and, you could watch every game before MLB
Wow.
Network and all that
Was it
kind of
like
stuff.
was it like a rerun type thing?
No,
Like what if the Cubs
they were live.
and whoever played at night?
Live yeah, the Cubs just
Wow,
played mostly
that's
day
crazy.
games, and of course, the Braves played mostly night games other than, like, Sundays and stuff. So, yeah, it was, live TV. Every game was on TBS. Ted Turner bought the Braves, had his TV station, was kinda one of the first ones to put stuff on cable networks, and, yeah, it was great. That's when I was growing up. I could watch every game.
Yeah, I remember I went to a game. I want to say it was the year we won the World Series, but it was like probably mid June. I want to say, and I was sitting on the front row in the outfield, and a guy sits down beside me, and he had just bought a scorecard, and I was looking at it. Me and him were kind of talking, and he's like, "Where are you from?" I was like, I'm from Hiawassee, Georgia. I mean, I'm a diehard Braves fan." He's like, "Me too, but we had to fly out here." And I'm like, "Well, where are you from?" He goes, "I'm from Texas, brother." And I'm like, "That is absolutely crazy." And I'm like, "Well, where are you like, how did you become a Braves fan?" That's what he said, TBS. He said, "I'd race home from school. That's the first thing I could do was get to the TV to watch the Braves." So,
That's it.
I mean, that stuff like
That's it.
that's just crazy to me to have people like that affected by the Braves, but like I said, not from here, but just want to come here because he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. He's, all that from Texas. But then when the Braves come on, and he's actually got a tomahawk tattoo on his right arm. So I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it runs deep across the entire United States, in my opinion.
It does, that's great too. So tell me about opening day weekend, that had to be, pretty special.
It was. My girlfriend got me tickets. Last year, I was able to go to the All-Star game, which I
Oh,
feel like
nice.
if you're a baseball fan, I feel like there's certain things on the bucket list to do. And I was so superstitious during the playoff run that I didn't wanna go because I'm like, if we go, they're gonna lose, and then there we are. So I never went to one of the playoff games that year, but last year, I mean, one of the things on my bucket list was the All-Star game, and I'm like, it doesn't come around often. I mean, what year was it?
Right.
Was it 2001 when the last came back or something like that? It was
Yeah,
it was
I think
earlier,
that was
99 maybe, it was early 2000s. So I was like, I gotta take this opportunity now, and so we went to the All-Star game, and I got to do the whole weekend, all that, that was awesome. So I checked that off the bucket list, and for me, really, it was opening day was the last one to really check off, and I feel like we haven't had an opening day series in forever. At least
Yeah,
it feels that way.
it's been like 3 years or
I think it
something, I
was the
think.
year after we won the World Series, so 22. So I was like, you know,
Right,
I really
right.
wanna go, and so she got the tickets, and first game was awesome. I mean, just saw the festivities and everything, and I think we won pretty. I mean, it was a pretty, like, we controlled the entire game, and then the second game came around, and I think it was it like 2-0, I think? Yeah, it was 2-0,
Yep.
and I remember seeing just
Ninth game.
a few fans were leaving, and she looks at me and she's like, "We ain't leaving, are we?" And I was like, "No, like, I would be here if it was 16-0." And just like to and she's kinda growing into baseball. I mean, she don't have a choice when I watch every single game, but she was starting to get into it. She was jumping up and down. She's like, "This is awesome," you know? And so, and to have it end the way that it did with, I mean, it'd be one thing, it'd be awesome, you know, if Acuna walked it off, but to have somebody walk it off that was a new Brave, that was, like, just awesome to me. So to beat, to me, I would honestly say I've probably been to maybe 50 or 60 Braves games in my life, and I feel like that one ranks right up there at the top. So that was awesome.
A walk-off grand slam, absolutely. That's just it's just something you don't see, every day.
Yeah.
And then his story about his mom, had just passed away and everything. It's just that was a great
It was,
story
yeah,
and a
it was
great.
definitely a feel-good story, and I remember, like, most Braves fans do. I mean, Dom Smith played for the Mets, and it seemed like even if we were beating the Mets, he was always killing us. So to
Right,
have him here and, like you said, that feel good moment with his mom, and to be able to do that, it was insane. Actually, when it happened, I didn't really realize that it was a walk off grand slam. I was more worried about, well, if we hit a deep fly ball, we can tag over, win the game. And
right,
then,
yeah,
you know, after I'm like, okay, he hit a home run. The bases, we just hit a grand slam. And I was telling my girlfriend, I'm like, "That's not something you see every day." And I ended up seeing something on Facebook a couple hours later, and it was, like, the first time since, I think maybe Brooks Conrad did it back in, I guess it was
right.
2010. So, I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, and then, especially, like I said, first-time player, first game he played in, as a Brave.
Right.
Yeah,
That's one
that
way to,
was
win the fan base over too.
exactly, exactly, and he's continued to hit, so that's a good thing. Well, it's good that you're getting your girlfriend involved. My wife loves the Braves. She actually did. Now she's from Colorado,
Oh, okay.
and she was a Braves fan before I met her. So, that's just, once again, goes to show you how that is. But yeah, she doesn't mind, if she didn't like me watching the Braves, we'd be in trouble 'cause
Yep.
I pretty much record every game just to make sure I can go back and
Yeah.
watch it,
Well,
if I'm doing
I
something.
told her yesterday, I'm like, "Well," I said, "the good news is for you," I said, "we play tomorrow night." So I said, "We have all day Sunday just to relax and kinda do anything you wanna do, but when 7 o'clock comes around, like, you know where I'm gonna be at." So, and it's very rare for the Braves to get a game on Sunday that's not at 1:30. So,
That's true. That's true. Well, here's something y'all can work towards. So this year's me and my wife's 35th anniversary,
okay.
and I haven't said this on, social media or anything, so people don't know about it yet, just a few people. So for our anniversary in May, a bucket list item for me, we're going to Fenway Park, and
Oh,
the Braves are playing the Red
oh
Sox.
my gosh. That's gonna be awesome.
So that's what we're doing for our
You're
anniversary.
gonna love
So
that. You talk about, like, bucket
abs
list things to do, like, bucket list stadiums, Fenway Park's up there for me. Like, that's
it
just,
has been for me
and
forever,
to go
and,
whenever they're playing the Braves is even better.
that just kinda worked out.
Yeah.
We were just, thinking, "Hey, why don't we go to Boston?" We had talked about it for the last few years, and she's the one that actually went in and checked the schedule. She said, "Uh-oh, they're playing the Braves." I said, "Okay, we're
Yeah,
there.
we're there. We're going no matter what.
We're gonna do
That's
it."
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, she's a trooper, and, just glad that she enjoys it as much as I do. But, yeah, that's some great stories as far as opening day and everything. So I see everybody listening can't see, but you're sitting at a race simulator there,
Yes.
which you told me about. So you're a race fan as well, I assume?
Yes, huge,
We like to talk about other sports as well here.
yeah, huge race fan. I feel like I said, baseball, football, that kinda came along when I was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Racing for me, my first race, I was 9 months old. My dad's raced for over 20 years. My uncle's built cars for over 30 years. So dirt track racing has always been, I mean, every Saturday, Friday night, that's where I've always been. And I love NASCAR. I mean, my grandparents took me when I was young. I went to Atlanta a couple months ago, and I love NASCAR as well. But like dirt track racing is my thing. That's where I go to Eldora. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to go to
That
Eldora.
and I've been to several dirt tracks, but Eldora is like once you go to Eldora, I feel like everything after that that you go to for as far as dirt track goes, it's just like it's just not as good. And so we go up there every September for the World 100.
Well, is that the $1,000,000 race?
But no, the $1,000,000 race was in June.
Okay,
That was a one-time thing. They've done it twice. They did it in 2000, I think, and then they did it again in 2022. And the
okay,
great thing about that is, I don't know how well you follow the sport, but Jonathan Davenport, I'm a huge Jonathan Davenport fan. He is from Blairsville, which is the same place I'm from. He's from Blairsville,
okay.
Georgia. So we've always kind of followed along with him. And before he actually became like on the big stage where he's at now, he raced with my dad back 20 years ago. So
Who's your dad? Sorry,
Kevin Bradshaw is my dad. He just
Cole
races
Bradshaw.
locally, but when Jonathan was coming up in the ranks, he raced at, like, the same local track as my dad did.
Right.
So my dad's got to, swap fenders with or, race with him door to door, and then, I mean, now you look on and see somebody 20 years later, and they're at the top of the sport. So Jonathan actually he won the million in 2022, which was the biggest
Wow.
payout race that the sport has ever seen as far as late models go. So we
Right.
and he's always Davenport's always had a dominant he's always been dominant at Eldora, which is like the crown jewel of dirt track racing. So we go up there for a week and just I mean, up there it's just it's different from Georgia for sure. But yeah, dirt track racing's always been I mean, right here beside me, my uncle lives and he's got a shop and I mean he builds the cars there. And like I said, my dad raced for over 20 years. So it's kind of just always been in my blood from like I said, 9 months old.
That's great. That's any any chance you dabble in it yourself?
It's very expensive.
It
I'll
is.
tell
It
you
is
one thing,
expensive.
everybody that I've ever talked to has always one of my best friends, he raced for a couple years when we were teenagers, so I was kinda his crew chief, helping him work on the car and stuff, and I've never heard anybody tell me that they got out of the car and was happy they got out of the car. They always had to get out of it because of money, but, like,
Right.
once you get in the car, you don't ever wanna get out, so, for me, I don't know if I could ever do it because I get too stressed out about stuff, so but, like, I would be lying if I said I didn't, like, at some point one day wanna at least turn some laps to kinda see what it's like. Because, like I said, it is in my blood, but that's something maybe, like, down the line, try out, but not
So
yet.
so a good friend of mine, he passed away a few years ago, and I don't know if you were around when he was racing, was Mike Head. Okay, I bet your dad knows him. He raced a lot. He was real successful, in Georgia. And I don't know if you've been to the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame up in Talladega?
I think I lagged out there for a second. What was it?
Okay. I don't know if you've been to the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame up in
So he's not
Talladega?
an is he an announcer?
He's not an announcer. No, he was
Not
a race car driver.
okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that
Yeah,
name
he
before.
drove. Yeah, he drove. He's in the Hall of Fame up there, but, and went to a lot of races out at, Talladega Short Track. He raced a lot out there, and in fact, his son started racing, and he got killed in a,
Oh, no.
unfortunate accident, so they had a memorial race for him every year, so I was always there, Talladega Short Track, but yeah, he raced for, I don't know, 30 years, I guess, until he finally just, couldn't do it
Right.
anymore when he got a little older, but yeah, so I'm a huge, huge dirt track fan, and people that watch NASCAR and everything, it's great, I love NASCAR, I watched it more probably back in the,
W
'80s and
when it was
'90s,
good.
yeah, back in the '80s and '90s, and, I mean, I still enjoy it, but I don't sit and watch a whole race
No.
anymore, but if people hadn't been to a dirt track, man, you gotta go 'cause it's
Yeah,
it's a whole 'nother
it
animal
is,
than,
and I'll tell you too,
watching NASCAR.
Alabama short track, we went up there, me and my some friends I go with, Eldora, my dad, all of us. We went up there during COVID. It's probably like in the middle of, I want to say June maybe. And we got up there early in the morning and it was so humid up there that you could see the steam coming off the grass. And so that was a pretty eventful time. And that track has no wall going into turn one.
Right.
So as soon as we get in there, I mean, when we make these trips and go to places, we go to Eldora. Eldora's big, fast, you know, and then we go there, and it's like as soon as we get in there, we sit down, and there's a car that goes in turn one and goes over the bank and just slides in it. And we didn't see him again until 5 minutes, so we pulled back on. It was like, okay, this is different. That was honestly a track that I've told a lot of people to put on their bucket list. I mean, that's a really good track.
Yeah, it is, it is. We really enjoy, when we went. Hadn't been in a while since we moved, but I gotta try to find some tracks around South Carolina. There used to be, and it was an asphalt track, but Myrtle Beach Speedway
Yeah.
was here, and they closed it down a few years ago, which I went, I don't know how many years ago, 25? I don't know, kinda when we first started coming here, and they just, of course, had local races like all the tracks do, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was racing. He was just
Yep.
a local driver at, Myrtle Beach Speedway, but you could tell he had the money behind him
Yeah, for sure.
'cause
So
he had the best car out there.
yeah, some people are, I mean, they're blessed not to be born into it, where they have their dad or their grandpa or something had raced at one point and had made a name for themselves, and they kinda just follow in the footsteps, but
Right.
Junior was definitely one
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well,
I
that's cool. I yeah, I just kinda saw that when I was kinda looking at your Facebook stuff. I said, we gotta talk some dirt track."
Yeah, that's crazy
Um,
that I wasn't expecting you to be a fan. I mean, it's dirt track racing's big in the South, but it's not real popular, I don't think. I think it's growing. I think NASCAR's kinda going down and dirt track racing, I feel like, is growing more.
I
Um,
think you're right.
but it's definitely like I said, it's always been in my blood. I mean, I love it. I mean, dirt track racing, like I said, 9 months old, my mom said she took me and my dad was racing, and she had the bottle and where I was drinking the milk, and then whenever I got done, I had a red ring around my face from the dirt. So it's always been in my
Ab
blood for sure.
absolutely. That's great. Yeah, I think they know it. NASCAR, when they tried to run a dirt track race a few years ago,
Yeah.
but when they tried to make Bristol dirt or something.
Yeah, they did it, I think,
Real
in
risky.
21 and 22. I had tickets to go in 21 and went all the way up there, and it got rained out, so they did it the next
Oh,
day, and I
really?
wasn't able to go, but it's definitely it's cool to see, but I don't think it was something that's sustainable for, like, NASCAR,
Right.
because usually people that like asphalt, people like dirt, and they usually don't coexist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do. I like now that's one place I would love to go see a NASCAR race is Bristol. That's kinda been on a
See, I've been
bucket
to
list.
Bristol several times, and I tell people all the
Have
time,
you?
like, when I went to Atlanta a couple of months ago, like, I had a good time, but, like, it's not like, I wouldn't go back. I don't really wanna go back again. Like, it was just too boring for me. Now, a Bristol
Yeah.
night race, I'll go every time they have it. It's just
Absolutely.
something different about Bristol.
Gotta be a night race. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting the whole time. I mean, there's
It really
racing the
is.
whole way through.
And the way that it's set up, it feels like you're, like, staring down on top of them. So you don't miss any of the
Right.
action, and it's short track racing's, I mean, I'm partial to that anyway, so
Yeah, you need both, absolutely. I mean, I've been to Talladega, it's cool,
yep, we've been to
to
Talladega.
see how fast they go, but, yeah, I was good going one time, and Darlington's pretty cool here in South Carolina. I've been to Darlington as well. It drives it they drive it a little more like a short track
Yep.
than, some of the super speedways, but,
I've definitely heard
um
people talk about. I went to Charlotte one time. I mean, I've been to Charlotte several times, but I had a guy that was parked beside us, and he told me, he's like, "Dude, you need to go to Darlington. Like, it's different out there. Like, you need to put that on your bucket list." So I definitely would like to go out there at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, absolutely. Well, great. Well, let's jump into since you told me you're a Bulldog fan. Now, not everybody from Georgia is a Bulldog fan because
I
I
have
gotta admit,
seen I have seen on your
I'm a Tech
Facebook
fan.
that you're a Tech fan. Yes.
I don't know how it happened. My dad went to Georgia, my sister went to Georgia, my nieces, my son's a big Georgia fan, but I did go to Georgia Tech back in the '80s,
Okay.
so that's kinda how it switched, and I still, I'll pull for Georgia when they're not playing Tech,
Right. Right.
so and I've asked a couple people so far, what are your thoughts on this season coming up?
So Gunner Stockton is actually right across the mountain from me, like 20
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
So whenever COVID was happening, he was kind of like still, I think, a junior. He was a senior, I think, or junior, one of the two. So me and my buddies actually used to go across the mountain on Friday nights, and we'd watch him play ball. And it was like he was on a field by himself. I mean, he was just so much better than everybody else. So I've always been a Gunner fan. I feel like Georgia fans have been very spoiled with Kirby. Um,
Yes.
I liked Mark Rick, but he never, like, he was going to get you 10 wins and that was it. He never was going to take us to the next step. And then I was always wanting Kirby. And then when we got Kirby, we had a couple years where we fell short, and then we won back to back. Like, I remember telling my friend, I'm like, dude, anything less than a national championship now is going to be a failure of a season to most Georgia fans. And I'm not like that. I mean, it does suck that the last 2 seasons we've been bounced out in the first game we played, but the talent is there. We were so young this year, and I think this year we're starting to get that. Like, we have 3 or 4 year starters that are coming back that are experienced. We have depth. I'm a believer in Gunner. I'm not a believer in Mike Bobo. I know there's a lot of
I was
people.
gonna
A
that
lot,
was my next question.
yeah, a lot of people are on the fence with him, and to me, like, it's not even that he's bad. He's bad at the most important times. Like, he'll call a brilliant game, and then when he needs to come up with the most brilliant driver, call one brilliant play, it's just 3rd and 11, we're throwing a bubble screen to our third string running back. I just it don't some of it just don't make sense to me, but that's why I'm sitting here and I'm not getting paid by Georgia, so they know more than I do. But I'm excited. I think Georgia's gonna be good this year. I just like I said, I'd like to see us like winning the SEC is a big deal, but I would like to see us, progress and go forward. And I think we have the team to win it all, but I feel like there's a lot of fans that are probably saying the same thing about their team.
Well, and that's the thing, and the whole transfer portal, NIL money is kind of leveled the playing field a lot. I mean, I don't think a team like Indiana wins a national championship without the
Oh,
transfer portal
not at all.
players,
And I'm not a hater of them
so
at all. Like I think what they've done was awesome. I like their coach, I like the quarterback, but I do think they're the perfect definition of what the NIL has unfortunately done to college football. And I've always been
right.
the type of person to say that players should get paid, but there's got to be a better structure with it and within the transfer portal. The NIL and the transfer portal's got to have a better structure. And I think that's why you're seeing Nick Saban at these courthouses trying to advocate for it. And I don't think there's anybody better to speak on that than him. And I think that it has made some of these teams like the Indianas, the Vanderbilts, teams like that have more of a shot now. But I think you're just getting into where the loyalty don't matter no more, and they're after the money more. And I think in the end, it's going to hurt the product.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like at the end of every year, every college player is a free agent,
Yeah,
they can do whatever they want. I think there needs to be some kind of structure, like, if you transfer, you gotta stay somewhere for a couple years,
I mean that's
unless
how
the coach leaves or
and
something,
that's how it used to be. Like if you
Right,
transferred, you sat out for what, a year, sometimes 2 years. So it made you think
exactly.
twice. And I really just think it's the best analogy I give people is like when they ask me because one of my good friends is actually my supervisor at work. He's a Georgia Tech fan too, but he's also when Georgia's playing, he roots for Georgia. So, and I was explaining it to him. I was like, when recruiting was happening 5, 10 years ago, Nick Saban, all he had to do in a video call like this was lay down his championship rings, and that for
Right,
somebody was enough to be like, all right, I want to go to Alabama. And now it's okay, well, they don't really care about that. They want the money. So really just it turns
exactly.
into whose pockets are the deepest. And I feel like when you do that, you're starting to take away from what makes college football so special. So I think they'll figure it out, but I don't know if there's too much damage been done. But like I said, the product's still good. It's just there's things that's got to be put in place to structure. And like I don't know if you are, but I'm not a fan of the playoff system. I mean, I like the playoffs, but like you hear some people say, "Well, I want to push it to 16 teams and I want to push it to 20." And to me, like when you do that, for me personally, you're taking away the significance of the regular season games. Like the SEC championship don't mean as much now because if you're the one seed, then you can afford to lose. And I think you're eventually going to open up doors where you're going to have starters sitting out for an SEC championship game if they ain't got to play it.
Right.
And it's just, and when I was a kid, which wasn't, I'd like to think not too long ago, I'm 29, but like the SEC championship that was almost in the South, that was almost, if not bigger than the national championship, you know?
Yeah, it was, and, back when I was growing up too, I mean, there needed to be some kind of playoff, I think,
Right.
because, there used to just be there might be 3 undefeated teams, and it's like,
You
"Okay,
could be
we're
put
gonna
in.
pick national champion," and so I think there need to be and I thought back when there were actually, the 5 major conferences that they could work something where all the conference champions and then maybe, an extra team, whatever, but now all the conferences, you're gonna end up with 2 major conferences that have 20 teams in them,
Yeah.
which I think is crazy, you know, because I just grew up with, 10-team conferences, 10, 12-team conferences, and now, it's like there's 17 teams in the ACC,
Yeah.
and some of them are on the West Coast.
And
What?
I think a lot of it too is like how I said that the SEC championship game was going to be ruined. I think you're already kind of seeing that in the regular season. Like
Yeah,
the Iron Bowl was always a huge deal. Now you're seeing players sit out because, well, we don't need to play it. And I think when you start messing with like tradition games and games that have history or real rivalries, you're just it's just I just don't think it's good. I don't think it's going in that right path. Like I remember being a kid and Georgia playing West Virginia and the Sugar Bowl and winning, and we would next week have T-shirts like you were proud of
right,
that. And now it's making well, if
exactly.
you're not in the playoff, then you're just you. There's no reason to play. And I think they're slowly moving into away from, I guess I should say, of what college football really is and what's made it so special.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully, they can figure something out, but yeah, and money drives everything,
Yes, it does.
so that unfortunately. And I understand it too, because there's a lot of kids out there that, they see that as their way to a future,
Yeah,
that maybe don't have a whole lot, and can't blame them. But then again, then I think you have some that just get greedy and, that, like you said, they're gonna chase the money rather than sticking with a team and being, that.
loyal, yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think there's a lot
And,
of players that you look back on that maybe, like, didn't have the start maybe they wanted to, they were a backup and they just didn't get playing time, and they never transferred, and they stayed loyal, and then, their time came, kinda like Gunnar Stockton, and
right.
have made the most of it, and I think that says a lot about a person, and I understand, like, some of them do transfer, and it's the right choice for them. Like, I know we had A.D. Mitchell in 21 and 22, and he was a crucial piece to our back-to-back championships, and then he transferred to Texas, and I think it was because his
Yes.
daughter was out there maybe, or it was something like that, and so, like, stuff like that, I totally understand.
Right. And you get, like you said, some players that aren't gonna play. Well, I mean, Tech got Haynes King because he transferred from Texas
Yep.
A&M. He wasn't gonna get playing time out there. I'd love that.
Yeah, and
I hate that
he's a
he's
heck of
gone.
a player too. I mean, watching him
Yeah.
was just, and that's the thing too, like, I mean, I know as a Georgia Tech fan, you're supposed to hate Georgia. As a Georgia fan, I'm supposed to hate Georgia Tech. I've never really looked at it that way. I know Georgia's had the dominance over them for a long time, but, like, when Georgia Tech was playing whoever, I was rooting for Georgia Tech. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
when they play, I think it was played to Pittsburgh and they lost the game at home. Like, I was rooting for them because at the end of the day, like, a lot of Georgia fans would hate me saying this. Like, I still want to see Tech do good because they're still from Georgia at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
and they're not going to
And
really,
and the bottom line, it helps whichever team wins that Georgia Tech game. It helps if the team they're playing has a good record, it's had a good
yeah,
season.
it
So
does.
that always helps.
And
And I
I
really
think
hate
Georgia
that,
Tech, Georgia Tech is starting to close the gap as well in that game. I like y'all's coach. I think the recruiting's getting better
Thank
for
you is
Georgia
really
Tech,
good.
and I think I think to me, there's just something about having a coach that's played there. Like,
Right.
Kirby played at Georgia. He understands what it was like losing to Florida all of the years he was there. He understands what it was like losing to Peyton Manning in Tennessee all the years he was there. Like, so I feel like when he comes to Georgia as a head coach, he knows what those players feel like when they lose to Florida, when they lose to Tennessee or Tech or whoever. And I think the same thing with Georgia Tech's coaches. I mean, he bleeds Georgia Tech. I mean, that's just, and I think that
Absolutely.
means a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. I do hate that, Georgia got, Isaiah Canyon transferred from Tech to Georgia, and y'all are gonna like him a lot. He's a big body
Yep.
receiver, and, yeah, I hated to see him leave, but, he's gonna be good. Gunner Stockton will have a good target to throw to to him.
I hope so. I know Gunner's been catching a lot of flack from a lot of analysts, but I mean, last year going into the season, I didn't have much confidence in him because he's just a shorter stature quarterback, and that matters at the quarterback position. And then when we
It
played
does.
Tennessee and he brought us back and threw some big passes and that big touchdown pass to tie it, like, when that happened, I was like, all right, this kid has no fear. He can do it. And I think he's going to utilize this offseason and get better. And I think George will be better going into this season.
That's great. The one thing it seems like to me, and maybe I'm missing it, I know Frazier's the main running back, but it just doesn't seem like they have that breakaway running back. I don't know if there's somebody coming in, a freshman or something, but just that one that's, it's gonna break an 80-yard touchdown run like a Nick Chubb or somebody
Yeah.
like that we've
And
had in the past.
the thing is with Georgia, I mean, we've always, like, we could be an 8-win team, but we've always had a plethora of running backs. I mean, that's just kind of always been
Right.
Georgia's mentality. And I mean, I like Frazier a lot. I think he is very good. The Bowens kid I don't think he gets enough playing time personally. But like you said, I mean, Georgia's there's just on a rotation of running backs. So
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. Zachariah Branch replacing him, I think, is what I'm probably most worried about because he was so good for us, and I think he fit Bobo's system very well. Maybe too well to the point he overused him. But I feel like Georgia's just we've never really had. I mean, we had George Pickens. We've had some really good receivers, but we've never had a receiver where they're going to have 100 catches in a year and go for 100 or go for 1,000 plus receiving yards. We've just always had players that kind of fit the system, which is fine sometimes. But I think Gunner needs a target kind of like a Branch, and I'm hoping some of the players that we have are kind of getting into that depth role where they're going to have an opportunity this year to do that. But like you said,
Right.
Georgia's always been a run first team, and to me, they always will be until something else changes, which I'm fine with. I like running the ball, and really, I think that's where Georgia's kind of struggled in the last couple years is not having line of scrimmage. Because for me personally, I think line of scrimmage is where football games are won.
It
So
is
and
on
and
both sides.
and in 21 to 22, our offensive line and defense line were so good, and I think we have had some players where they were good enough to start, but you could still see the holes, and I think that started to kind of show. So, but like I said, I'm hoping that Frazier has a big year because he's a good receiving back as well. When he decided to come back, I knew that was going to be big because then we knew we had our RB1 back, and then now
Right.
it just comes down to who's going to be that, Sony Michel to Nick Chubb, who's going to be the James Cook to Zamir White or whoever.
Yeah, they've had some great ones over the years for sure. And you never know who's gonna, just have a breakout year and
Right.
that haven't even heard of yet. It happens. So yeah, great. Well, looking forward to it, and we've kinda let these go about 30 minutes or a little longer, but Cole, I appreciate it. I have loved the racing talk and getting into football, baseball. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
And we'll hook back up maybe later once football season starts. We'll talk some more Georgia Tech maybe and check back in and see how the racing's going.
That and also hopefully the Braves will be in first place by then, and maybe we're talking about
Alright.
the playoffs.
Absolutely, absolutely, always that. Alright, well, thank you so much, and, you have a great day.